Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Jeff with the Collector Car Network, and today we're bringing you some rain ASMR. I'm just kidding. Today we're going to be looking at the 2023 Mazda CX-50 with the Turbo Premium Plus package. But before we get into that, first a quick word from our sponsor.
Today's Auto Hunter Cinema video is brought to you by Land Air Sea. Keep tabs on all your valuable assets from the palm of your hand. Remember, with Land Air Sea, theft is temporary. Visit landairSea.com to order your Land Air Sea GPS unit for your classic vehicle.
Okay, so now we're in front of the 2023 Mazda CX-50 Turbo Premium Plus package. And what better way to talk about a utility vehicle than in a very utilitarian environment like this, looking at the brutish aggressiveness, off-roading ability of the Mazda CX-50. Obviously, we typically don't get a lot of rain here in Phoenix, so this is a bit of an alternative, but I think it looks very epic with the car, don't you think? So let's talk about the exterior, and then we'll get into the engine, interior, and some of the other details of the car. So looking at the exterior, this of course is a crossover sort of SUV, and where it fits into the line is pretty interesting. There's some different things that you'll notice. Obviously, it looks much more aggressive than the most comparable vehicle in Mazda's typical SUV lineup, which would be their CX-5. So of course, this being the CX-50, kind of a play on there. But one of the cool things about this is what you might notice in its aggressive appearance is it has some more extra plastic bits, things like these extra plastic side bumpers, which will help to avoid things like desert pinstriping if you're familiar with off-roading, which is generally when you're driving up against brushes and things like that that might leave scratches. This plastic will actually take care of a lot of that, so you don't have to worry about that showing up in the paint on the side of your vehicle. One of the other really cool things that you might not notice just by looking at the vehicle is its aggressive stance. And some of the reason for that is because you have actually over an extra inch of ground clearance on this versus like some of the standard SUVs, like again, comparing to things like the CX-5, making this a really cool utility vehicle that has more capability than some of the other SUVs might find just in Mazda's lineup, but other crossover and SUVs in general. Another interesting feature is some of these roof rails. For the CX-50, knowing people are going to be putting things like kayaks and other off-road utility things, maybe extra bags, roof tents, whatever the case is, Mazda wanted to make sure they could put these reinforced rails on here that can support more weight than normal, giving you that ability to take whatever you need with you on the trails, which is a really cool feature. We do have some 20-inch black alloy wheels under here as well, which are up to the task, perfect for helping clear whatever you need to. And the actual roof line for the car has actually been lowered about an inch as well, which helps to give it that sort of stout, aggressive, brutish stance that you see on the exterior of the car. Another fun thing that I like, which is more of a aesthetic thing personally, but I really like these bulgy fenders that you'll find on the front and the rear of the car. And of course, you also have Mazda's remote keyless entry, which is a pretty cool feature as well. So that's pretty much it. Looking at the exterior of the car, there's a lot to like here. The car looks fantastic, and the fact that it's even all-wheel drive makes it even more impressive, especially knowing that this vehicle can tow up to 3,500 pounds. Now, before we get to the interior, there is one thing I want to show you. This actually has a power door entry, so you can either use the remote or you can just tap the door, and that'll go ahead and lift that back flap, as you can see here. So that's pretty awesome. It's currently raining sideways, so let's get under here and let's show you one of my favorite features about the CX-50. So check this out. Currently the back seats are up. You can see we got plenty of cargo space in here, very comparable to any SUV in this space. But check this out. Let's say you need to lower the seats to put some bigger items in the back here. It's as simple as pulling these levers. Look at that. I just lowered the entire back in maybe 0.5 seconds. So that is a really cool feature. But let's go ahead, let's get out of the sideways cold rain into the interior, and let's talk about what the CX-50 has to offer. Okay, I know I said initially we're going to talk about the interior next, but first we have to cover the engine, because with a towing capacity of 3,500 pounds, you should know what's towing that vehicle, and let's talk about some of the capabilities of the powertrain in this vehicle. So this is Mazda's 2.5-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Mazda rates it at about 227 horsepower, but it's actually good for up to 254 horsepower should you run it on some higher octane, and 320 pound-feet of torque, which allows for that very heavy towing rating, which is actually better than some of the other SUVs in Mazda's lineup. setup. This engine is fantastic. It's pretty responsive. You get decent fuel economy. This is about 25 to 29 on your regular driving instances, which is pretty nice. It'll be plenty of range to get you wherever you're going into the woods while providing a pretty easy, essentially working stance and then power when you need it. This thing has plenty of boot, and with the all-wheel drive system, makes it a very capable vehicle for getting off into some other terrains wherever you want to go. Or if you don't want to do off-roading, that's totally fine. This is just fine for doing regular city driving and has plenty of get up and go if you need to do any passing on two-lane roads, especially mated to the 6-speed automatic transmission that you'll find in standard Mazda vehicles, with the option for manual shifting with the paddle shifter should you choose to do so. But now let's move to the nice, dry, warm interior as we lose visibility of the mountains behind us, and we'll talk about what's going on in the interior of the CX-50. Okay, so now we're sitting inside of the 2023 Mazda CX-50 Turbo with the Premium Plus package. So first, there is a lot of cool stuff going on in here. We talked a little bit about the sort of aggressive off-roadness of this. And first, let's talk about how good the exterior looks to match the brunt of the outside. So looking at this, this is actually the terracotta interior, which also mixed with black. I think it looks fantastic, especially in contrast to our machine gray metallic exterior. But one of the other cool things is this. The way they did the stitching is very similar to what you might find on a lot of sort of outdoorsy athletic gear, things like backpacks, tents. It's all inspired to make you feel like you're always hanging out in the outdoors, which I think is a really cool touch. Makes it feel a little bit more personal or more at home if you're in an environment where you're camping. So I think that's a really cool touch. As far as the usability, we have a lot of the technology that you'll normally find in a lot of Mazda vehicles, which is really nice. It's one of the things I've always appreciated about their vehicles. If you're familiar with Mazdas, you'll definitely feel right at home with the CX-50. We have a lot of controls, like the steering wheel controls are all standard on a lot of the new Mazdas. We have our sort of central interface system is all really standard. You have your things like power seats in the front, heated seats, heated steering wheel, ventilated seats. All of that is available in the front, along with all of your standard Mazda safety features. Let's talk about some of the things that are specific to this. Some of the vent layouts, you have a symmetrical vent set up for the driver, and then it kind of gets asymmetrical as you come to the passenger side. And this is kind of plushy, which is kind of fun. You have your standard sort of this main display for the center console, which is not a normal touchscreen. You have your sort of standard Mazda control pad here, which has your dial and some of your other elements. One thing I really do appreciate, as opposed to some other vehicles in this space, is the fact that the Mazda CX-50 actually comes with both wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, while a lot of manufacturers actually only use the sort of wired plug-in version. So that's a really nice feature. Another cool thing is, despite this being a crossover sort of SUV, you get a moonroof, and it's a big one at that. It really helps to help open up the interior, and on days like this, if you want to see the raindrops falling on your roof, that is something that is easily accessible and can even be opened up should you choose to do so. Now, we're going to hop in the back seats in a sec to talk about what's going on there, but it's just a really comfy environment. You get your multi-informational display, and everything's fully adjustable with your cup holders, and some really cool features I want to point out. You actually get a cell phone wireless charger right here that you can lay your phone in and charge it while you're driving, and it sits out of the way. It's not going to move during driving. It's got the the anti-movement pad. Really nice touch. But something that Mazda thought of that I really haven't seen before is this center console. So sometimes when you're driving and you've got your arm on there or whatever, your passenger might need to get in here, they can actually open up just their side and get access to this. Same thing goes for the driver should they need to open it up, or you can have both sides open at the same time. So pretty unique to this vehicle and kind of a cool touch should Mazda want to do that. And the door handles, just the quality of everything feels fantastic, and you even get a heads-up display with a 12-speaker Bose system that sounds really good. So let's hop in the back seat. Let's talk about what's going on back there. Okay, so now we're sitting in the back of the Mazda CX-50, and it's actually really, really roomy back here. Looking at the exterior, like I said, there's some shortened dimensions on the exterior, but there's a ton of headroom here. I'm about 6 foot even for reference, and I still have plenty of room. I could easily sit in the back of this vehicle on long road trips, and the seats are actually really comfortable. This is an awesome vehicle that not only could you take yourself and somebody else in the passenger seat camping, you can actually take your family, other friends, full-size adults could actually sit back back here. Can't say I'd recommend the center seat, but nonetheless, it's there. What you can have is your cup holders. This goes ahead and folds down. Now you get 2 cup holders for people in the back so they can enjoy their comfort. Again, this really opens up the room and how it feels in the back seat, which is a really cool feature. Another luxury that you get back here is heated seats for both of the people in the back seat. They each get their own control for heated seats, which is really nice, especially on days like this where there's lots of rain and you just want to hang out in the interior of the car, get out of the rain for a little bit, heat yourself back up so you can be nice and comfortable. That's possible in the CX-50. You also get some USB chargers, which are always nice, and then of course you do get some fold-in pads if you wanted to store stuff and some side pockets and things like that, and the typical quality is just really comfortable, really impressive. I like all of the utility that you get for the vehicle, and like I mentioned, if you're not using these back seats, it's really, really easy to fold them down and even fold them back up. It takes almost zero effort. But now that we've covered the interior, let's hop back in the driver's seat and let's take it for a spin. Okay, so now we're on the interior of the 2023 Mazda CX-50, and you're ready to listen to some rain ASMR as we have the windshield wipers going. Rain is still falling, and now is the perfect time for the CX-50 to show an example of what it likes for driving through rain puddles on a day like today. So we can take full advantage of all of the technology inside of the vehicle. So first, I figure let's go ahead, let's get the heated steering wheel activated, let's get the heated seats going as well, and let's go ahead, put it in drive, and we can shift it into a multiple amount of different driving modes. So we'll go ahead and keep it normal for now. Let's talk about what's going on here. So this vehicle is all-wheel drive, so that means we'll have a better traction on days like today where it's a little bit rainy. However, I should point out, all-wheel drive doesn't actually help you when braking, so be sure to keep a good distance between the car in front of you, even on rainy days like this when driving in not very hospitable driving environments. Now, one of the cool things is the driving modes. Normal is what Mazda generally recommends for your everyday sort of city driving, things like just general economy, whatever it is you're going to be doing, normal casual driving. Then we have 2 additional driving modes. We do have Sport, which you go ahead and push the button up, everything goes red, and you are in Sport. And what that does is it's not overly dynamic, but what it will do is it will adjust the way the computer sort of responds. It'll generally try to hold the revs out just a little bit more, just to make it a little bit more dynamic for you. And then we have, because the CX-50 is such a brute, we also have off-road mode, which you'll find by shifting down. Everything goes beige, which is obviously the color of rocks and off-road, and manly men colors that you want when you're going to be taking this brutal beast off-road, right? And what that does is that'll help with some of the torque vectoring that's going on inside of the vehicle to make sure that you get better traction, which means a mode like off-road mode could be better suited to something like today in lovely Phoenix, where we have a ton of rain. So that's some of the different driving modes that you have. You can actually switch it into the towing mode as well, should you choose to do so, which will help make a little bit more easy on the car and make sure it stays in the torque bumps that it needs in order to make sure you can pull those heavy loads while towing the vehicle. But let's go ahead and let's talk about the general driving experience that you experience as the driver in the CX-50. First of all, this is a Mazda, so the steering feel that you get is fantastic. Mazda always does a good job of implementing some enthusiasm in the driving experience. The steering wheel is not over boosted where you feel like it's almost dead at the wheel and you're just numb driving the vehicle. It feels responsive and you enjoy driving it. You get a good feel for where the car is going, a little bit resistance to it. It's not exhausting to drive by any means, but you enjoy it way more and it feels like, you know, you are really in control of the vehicle. Next is visibility. Because this is an SUV and a crossover, you sit a little bit higher, and of course that can be adjusted however you want, but you have a ton of visibility. These A-pillars aren't overly restrictive. I have plenty of room in my mirrors, but I also get to see the awesome boxy fenders, which look fantastic in the rear view mirrors. And of course you have your normal features for cameras, nice visibility out of the rear view mirror, all of that stuff, plus that heads-up display, which is super helpful to have. Now obviously this is the 6-speed automatic transmission that's available in a number of different Mazdas, but you of course get the manual mode as well. I don't think that's really at home in a vehicle like this, but it is still available if you want it, along with the flappy paddles which sit behind the steering wheel. And of course we made it, the steering wheel makes it so that when you have the vehicle in sport, you get a more sporty tuned experience. It's a little bit more fun when you're doing things like canyon carving. So it's available nonetheless. You do have a heads-up display. It doesn't do much, but it does adjust a few different things. You get things like your gas mileage, your range. It doesn't have music or maps or anything like that, but it's a few different things that are available. And of course, you have your massive display here on the dash for your main view when looking at your maps. So that's pretty much it as far as the general overall view. It's a nice brutish vehicle that has plenty of ground clearance, gives you lots of confidence when driving on rainy days like here in Phoenix. It features very outdoorsy feels, not just in the interior and the way it looks, but the way it functions. Having this moonroof is huge because that really opens up the interior, makes it feel even more spacious, and I think you'd be surprised. Looking at this from the exterior, of course, it looks like it's got some room, but it feels even bigger on the interior than it does on the exterior, which is really nice. And it's such a pleasure to drive. I really enjoy this vehicle, not to mention the utility, the technology, and the general function of a vehicle like this. It just feels really at home, and you can get better gas mileage if you were more generous to it. Watch your throttle inputs and things like that, and you can find yourself upwards of those high 20s, even low 30s on a good day when you're doing freeway driving, like I said, as long as you're mindful about it. But it just feels fantastic, a very capable vehicle. So if you were on the edge about the CX-50, what I think would really put you over is a test drive. This vehicle is a ton of fun to drive, and I think that's one of the things that makes Mazda so unique from a lot of other manufacturers. Not to mention all of this technology, the usable, everything feels really practical in this car, and that's one of the things that I personally really appreciated about it, because it feels normal. Everything feels like it makes sense, and the styling cues are nice because it's kind of like you don't need to have a log cabin when you go camping, but it would be nice to have. And this car has all of that. The looks, plus the practicality, the utility, the technology, everything about it is phenomenal in my opinion. So if you were on the edge, I strongly would recommend that you go to your nearest Mazda dealer and test drive the CX-50. I think it's a nice change from something like the CX-5, and the price difference is only about $650 per tier, depending on what package you were looking at. This is available with the standard 2.5 liter four-cylinder that puts out about 187 horsepower, though I would recommend springing for the 2.5 turbo if you can manage it, because it brings a lot more to add to the table, especially if you want to take advantage of the towing options that this vehicle has. And it's always nice to have a little bit more grunt for passing people on two-lane roads and other things like that. There's really not a ton of road noise too. It's actually very quiet, making it even easier to enjoy that 12-speaker Bose sound system that's in the car. So that's going to be the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed the rain ASMR that we provided for you today, and you could smash that like button for us, we would really appreciate it. And consider commenting below. Let us know your thoughts. Are you considering this vehicle? Have you already purchased one? Let us know below. And as a little sneak peek, there actually is a hybrid version of this vehicle coming out in the future. So if you were interested, maybe that was the deal breaker for you, that car is actually going to be coming here shortly. So be sure to check that out. And of course, get subscribed for more content like this in the future. And with that, thank you so much for watching. We're going to go get dried off, and we'll see you guys next time.